So I thought it would be interesting to show you what it's actually like to pursue game dev full time. I want this video to be as accurate as possible. I'll usually wake up around 9 o'clock in the morning and I'll say hi to the cat, and I'll make myself a hot cup of coffee as well as a simple breakfast. After breakfast, I go into my office and start planning for the day. I think it's important to stay organized and have a priority list so you know what the most important things are to do. Right now I'm working on getting the prototype finished so I can have an actual playable version of the game for people to see. So I decided to add a few new items to the in progress list. I'll be working on the inventory as well as the robot's laser. So in my game Exploratory, you play as a floating copper robot named Robo. You control Robo with the WASD keys or the arrow keys. To collect resources, all you have to do is left click on the resources you want to collect. Right now it just looks like the resources are disappearing, so I'll need to add a laser that comes out of Robo. If you're new to this channel, I'll give you a little bit of background of where I am with this project. So I started the project back in October 2020, and I actually started it using the Unity Game Engine. However, I decided to switch to the Godot Game Engine for numerous reasons that maybe I'll talk about in a future video. So before lunch, I got to work on the laser, and I basically followed a tutorial by GDQuest. It's a very fast-paced tutorial, but does a good job explaining how to make a nice looking laser in Godot. So I was able to get the laser to basically work. However, it still doesn't point to the mouse location. This should be a pretty easy fix. Now it's almost 1:15, so it's time to make some lunch. Because I'm working on a commercial project and this is not just a hobby project, it means that game dev for me is very similar to being a solo entrepreneur. You have to make some sacrifices up front if you want to achieve your goals. This means occasionally just having ramen for lunch. One of the cool things about working for yourself and being an indie game developer is that you're not beholden to anyone else's schedule besides your own. So after lunch, I decided to go on a quick hike to the grocery store. And it was actually a pretty eventful hike, but I'll get to that in a little bit. It's really important if you're spending a lot of time in front of the computer programming to get out every once in a while and stretch your legs and get a little bit of exercise. And that's why I decided to hike to the grocery store rather than just drive. So when I finished shopping, I decided to go to the Gorge to see if the trail was open. And the gate was partly open, so I thought, oh, maybe it's actually open, even though it snowed a lot. I don't think it was open. It ended up being a fairly treacherous hike down the gorge through the frozen waterfalls, and I don't recommend it, but it was kind of worth it. I had my phone with me, and there were obviously footprints in front of me on the trail, so somebody else had taken the trail before me, so I didn't feel too bad about it. But at the end, I got to see this really cool giant icicle. I ended up making it back to our apartment alive, and I made another cup of coffee, and it's now time to finish the laser. There are a couple things I need to fix with the laser. First off, it shines when you zoom in and out, and it also shines when you click and drag. I also need to correct the offset of the collision shapes for the trees. And finally, I need to make the laser point to the mouse. To get the laser to point to the correct location, all I had to do was change my cast point variable to get global mouse position. It works great when I tested it, however it's slightly offset. To correct this, all I have to do is add get position to account for the offset of my node. Let's test it again. Yep, now it works perfectly. Now I'll fix the collision shapes for the trees. I'm going to make the collision shape for the tree the same shape as the isometric tiles. Now let's test it out and see how it looks. Okay, it looks like I spoke too soon about the laser working perfectly. To fix this, all I have to do is add toLocal in front of get position. There we go, now it's working perfectly. I'm actually not going to worry about the collision shapes for the trees for now. I like how it is, and it's working fine for now. Next, I'll show you how I'm going to implement the cooldown feature for the resource collection. This will make it so the trees aren't just instantly deleted. Rather, you'll see a progress bar load all the way to full, and when it reaches full, it'll delete the tree. First, I'll create the textures or the images for the progress bar. Next, I'll add those files to my resources. I'll add my textures to the texture progress node, and to make it so the progress bar is always hovering above the mouse. Next, I'll add the code to make it so when you click and hold the mouse down, it adds to the progress bar until it reaches 100. When it reaches 100, it'll collect the tree resource. Let's test it out and see how it works. So now you can see that when you click on the tree, the progress bar will slowly load, and when it reaches full, it deletes the tree. This really makes the game feel very nice. Now I need to make the progress bar hide itself when you're not collecting resources. I also need to make it work for all the other resources in the game. I'll add the code that will hide the progress bar as well as make it visible when we need it visible. and I'll test it out and we'll see how it looks. There we go, looks great. Now I'll just take that exact code and I'll copy paste it, modify it a little bit, and it'll work perfectly for the rocks. I think that's enough work for the laser for now. I really like how it feels. And now I want to work on some preliminary UI for the resource values. Right now you can see I just have some temporary labels. So what I need to do is I need to open up Blender and create a new project so that way I can start making my heads-up display. Now I'm going to take the copper shader that I used for Robo and the solar panels and apply it to the heads-up display. So I'll export the file from Blender and I'll import it into my Godot project to see how the heads-up display will look. I think it looks okay for now, however I'll probably change it a little bit in the future and refine it to make it look a little bit more polished. I do really like the copper look because it makes it feel like you're inside of Robo. I zoomed way out and Robo has infinite range, which is kind of funny. It makes me feel super powerful. I'll probably include that as like a cheat code or something in the game, but I don't know if I could have infinite range like this in the game. But who knows, maybe that'll be fun. So I actually 3D printed a copy of Robo with copper filament. I also embedded a giant 1-inch magnet inside of him. And if everything goes to plan, hopefully in the future I'll have something really cool to show you. It has to do with the magnet inside of Robo. It will be super cool if it works. I give it maybe 25% chance of working, so we'll have to see. I'm still waiting for some parts to arrive in the mail. So back to the heads-up display, I tried adjusting some of the things and adding some icons to see how it would look, and I think it looks okay. However, definitely this will be changed in the future. This is all just temporary right now. I was thinking about not using any words in the game, so there's no language barrier at all, which I thought would be an interesting concept to have. One of the main goals I have for this game is I want it to be as intuitive as possible. I want anyone to be able to figure out how the game works even if they've never touched a video game in their life. The goal is to make the mechanics of the game simple yet extremely powerful. It would be so cool if a 5-year-old could pick up the game and play it and run around the world and explore, or a 17-year-old could play it and build really cool automated systems and stream it on YouTube. 25 or 35-year-olds could play it after work and just relax and have fun and build a really cool world, or a really techie person can build an entire 8-bit computer inside the game. I hope you could start seeing where I'm trying to go with this game. There's still a ton of work I'll have to do, so please like and subscribe, and that'll really help me. Now it's time for one of my favorite parts of game development, moving the in-progress items to the complete column. I can now move the laser item and the tree selection item to the complete column. So it's currently about 9:30 p.m. I usually will keep working until about 10:30, and that's basically a day in the life of a solo indie game developer. It requires a lot of self-motivation and persistence, but you get to be your own boss and you get to do whatever you want. It's fun, but definitely not easy, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.